Welcome back to the Dean's List. We're going to provide some practical and strategic insights for growing your wealth at every stage of life. And we're going to focus on IRA conversions, a very exciting topic, an essential tool for people that are in their 60s today preparing for retirement. Now, we know President Trump is 78, so he's not ready to retire, but you might be. Over the next 4 years, we're going to get a very different environment. And we're going to explore how changes in tax policy might influence your decisions, specifically around converting traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs. We'll also discuss the mixed perspectives on future tax rates and what they mean for your financial planning long term. First, let's try to understand what an IRA conversion is just for novices. Converting a traditional IRA to a Roth involves paying taxes on the amount that we're converting, but it provides the benefit of tax-free withdrawals in the future. This strategy is particularly attractive when you expect future tax rates to be higher than your current tax rates. Why would we consider these conversions specifically in our 60s? Because for those nearing retirement, there are compelling reasons to consider them, like lower taxable income, right? You've just retired or have low income years before starting Social Security and RMDs, required minimum distributions. It might be an ideal time to convert part of your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA at a lower tax rate, right, than you had while you were working, and a lower tax rate than you might expect to have sometime in the next 5, 10, or 15 years. There are also tax-free withdrawals, right? The future tax-free income from a Roth IRA can be advantageous, particularly if tax rates rise or remain unpredictable. And you get to reduce your future required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Converting some of your IRA now reduces the size of your traditional IRA, and it lowers the future RMDs because they're a percentage of that total that could push you into higher tax brackets. So the impact of a Trump presidency on tax policy is worth talking about. That presidency could influence tax policy in several ways that might impact retirement planning. There's potential for lower taxes, right? It's very likely that with a Republican Congress, President Trump will extend the tax cuts or enact new policies that maintain or lower current tax rates. And so converting IRAs now could be done at a lower tax cost. Concerns over national debt, right? The potential for extended tax reductions, the national debt could increase, and it definitely will, potentially prompting future administrations to raise taxes. And market volatility and growth are always considerations that we all think about, right? Economic policies could lead to market fluctuation. Converting during a market dip allows for recovery and growth within a Roth IRA, compounding tax-free from that point forward. Why do a lot of folks think that tax rates are going to rise in the future? And then let's also talk about why they might not be right? A common assumption is that tax rates will rise sharply because of fiscal pressures, right? The government is spending more money than it has available, printing money to do that, and continuing to borrow money, mostly from foreign lenders like China. It's essential to consider both sides. Why do people expect higher tax rates? The national debt, right? Our national debt continues to rise, and addressing it might require higher taxes in the future. Right? This is the idea that the younger generation is going to pay for the older generation's mistakes. A Trump presidency could influence tax policy in several ways that might impact retirement planning. There's the potential for lower taxes because it's very likely President Trump extends the tax cuts, right, from his prior administration or enacts new policies that maintain or lower current tax rates. And so converting IRAs now could be done at a lower tax cost. It's very common to see the media talk about concerns about our debt, right? Our national debt. It's enormous and it's growing and it will continue to do so. And what we're doing is we're passing the burden of that debt from the older generation to the younger generation that might experience higher tax rates in the future. There's always market volatility and growth, right? Economic policies, they lead to market fluctuations oftentimes. So converting during a market dip is a good idea because it allows for recovery and growth within the Roth IRA, compounding tax-free. Now let's talk about why people think tax rates might rise and also why that might be the wrong assumption. We've already discussed that higher tax rates could be pressured in the future because of our growing national debt, right? Something that is well known there and definitely not going to be a surprise to anyone. Now, we don't know exactly how this will play out, but it's one theory that higher taxes might be required. And that takes higher growth out of the equation, because higher growth could offset some of this necessary tax increase in the future. There's also the expiration of tax cuts, right? The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act lowered rates temporarily, and many of those provisions are set to expire in 2025. Now, in my opinion, Trump is going to work with his Republican Congress to extend those tax cuts, but that action is required soon to extend that legislation. Also, talk about social spending needs. Social Security and Medicare are under pressure, and as our population ages, potentially will require more revenue. Always geopolitical and economic pressures out there. Unforeseen challenges could lead to higher taxes as part of broader economic strategies. Now, let's talk about why this idea that tax rates might be higher in the future, in my opinion, are a bit misplaced. Inflation adjustments are number one. Tax brackets are indexed to inflation. So that means that your income thresholds will rise every year, and that might offset some of the bracket creep. There's also political resistance. Let's not forget that. The folks that are voting in the highest proportion each year are older people and not younger people. And older people vote things that are important to them. So, like increasing taxes, especially on the middle class, that is politically challenging. Alternatives like targeted taxes on wealth or specific assets might be more palatable, but we just don't think that working class Americans and older folks are going to vote tax increases on themselves. Policies might prioritize keeping tax rates low to stimulate growth and encourage investment. And there's enough evidence that this strategy works. Some people are critical, and go ahead and give me some comments about that. People are critical of trickle-down economics, but trickle-down economics is a real thing, right? The more money we put in the hands of creators, right, from business owners to entrepreneurs, the better off our population is, because most of us work in small businesses. And that is the engine that powers America. Yes, of course, COVID was a good example of helicopter money in huge amounts put into people's hands that may not have been spent in the best way imaginable. But I'd like to imagine that that is the exception and not the rule. There's also public sentiment. Voter resistance can influence tax policy, and that leads to moderate adjustments instead of sweeping changes. We're going to talk about some strategies for IRA conversions. Given the potential of both stable and higher tax scenarios, here's how to strategize. Think about incremental conversions. You don't need to convert your entire traditional IRA to a Roth in one shot. Spread those conversions out over several years to avoid jumping into higher tax brackets, right? And you can work with your tax and retirement professionals to measure and execute those exact strategies, but you maximize your tax bracket. Convert up to just the top of your current tax bracket to optimize tax efficiency. And consider state taxes. If you live in a no income tax state, but plan to move to a higher tax state, converting now could be really beneficial, right? Most people aren't doing that. They're doing the reverse, but still, it could be an option. So here at the Dean's List, we focus on strategic wealth building for all stages of life. And if you're in your 60s and nearing retirement, IRA conversions are a powerful tool, especially in the context of potential changes under the Trump presidency. While many expect tax rates to rise due to fiscal pressures, inflation adjustments, and political realities suggest rates might not increase as dramatically, and that's my point of view, not as dramatically as anticipated. So the key is to stay flexible, informed, and ready to act based on current and projected tax scenarios. Stay tuned to the Dean's List for more insights that help you navigate financial planning and protect your wealth and help you grow, ensuring you spend your time doing what you love without financial worry.